Welcome to the viewers of Dateline Gujarat also, and of course this live is one of the much awaited lives, the way we have got the response, because we are going to talk today on the oil prices. And of course the question is why the petrol and diesel prices are high. कल केंद्र सरकार ने ₹2.5 की कटौती घोषित की, बाद में राज्य सरकारों ने भी ₹2.5 की कटौती वैट में घोषित की, और कहीं ना कहीं ₹5 पेट्रोल और डीजल की जो कीमत है प्रति लीटर उसमें कहीं ना कहीं कटौती जाहिर की गई है। पर क्या ये काफी है? जहां तक की बात करें तो हमारे साथ है इकोनॉमिस्ट, स्टेट्समैन एंड थिंकर डॉक्टर जयनारायण व्यास। उन्हें कोई अभी इंट्रोडक्शन की जरूरत नहीं, ही डज नॉट नीड एनी इंट्रोडक्शन, एंड दिस ट्रस्ट मी वेरी फ्रैंकली फ्रेंड्स, Dr. Vyas has done a very detailed research on this. I have also equally worked on my questions very well, and this is going to be very interesting topic today because this topic touches a common man. Dr. Vyas, the first question, welcome to this joint broadcast. There's a lot of excitement the way we discussed it. Lots of friends have called you and me also that this is something they had awaited. This is a current topic they really like to talk on. So I think this is the right thing, right time we have picked up. ₹5 decline in petrol prices per liter. So I think this makes a kind of an environment and atmosphere to talk about it. Dr. Vyas, could you just give a primer, a global primer as to, in terms of demand supply data of crude oil and the top consumers and top suppliers in terms of per capita?
I think, Himanshu, we make this discussion more academic.
Okay.
Rather than going to those statistics straight away.
Okay.
I would like to say you very rightly observed that this is one thing which is touching everybody.
Yes.
Why it is touching everybody?
Why it is touching everybody?
Energy is the measurement of the development. Per capita energy consumption is one indicator. Which defines how grown the economy is.
Your per capita energy consumption defines your growth, your development, and how progressive your economy is.
Very true. And if you want to sort of have a cascading effect of price rise, you touch the energy cost. Your transport will go costly. Housewife will have a costly fuel.
True.
Your vehicle will run on a costly fuel.
True.
Your manufacturing activity which consumes energy will become costly. So one aspect that can create or rather have a cascading effect on the entire cost, or one might say the inflation or otherwise, is energy. And if you look at that in terms of per capita energy consumption, we are third next only to China.
We are third next to China.
China is first.
China is the number one consumer.
105. That is the million ton oil equivalent, MTOE. Million ton oil equivalent.
That is
China
3,105.
United States is next, 2,201. And then comes India right behind, but not even half of the United States consumption, per capita consumption. That is at 934. Next is Russia, 744. So this is MTOE is the indication that gives you per capita energy consumption of India, and that also defines in a way the economy that is progressing, that is developing. And I think that though way behind China and not even half of the United States of America, we are an economy which has to grow, and grow at the rate 7%, 8% plus we are talking about. You are going to be consuming more and more energy. And if you talk about that, then you have to talk about your energy basket. What is the share of the oil?
What is the share of the oil?
Why do we talk about oil? What is the share of the oil? So if you look at the energy basket of India as of 2015, the share of coal is 45%.
So as on date, we are consuming more of a coal energy.
Yes.
The major pie still remains the coal.
Oil is 24%. Gas is 5%. Now go to 2040. Coal comes down from 45% to 28%.
28%.
Oil, surprisingly enough, remains
Means
at 24%, constant, and gas goes up from 5 to 14%.
Okay.
That means hydrocarbons. 24 and 14. Even come 2040, you will be dependent upon this form of energy increasingly.
Yes.
And if that is going to so happen,
yes,
then I think our concern about the oil prices and especially the crude oil prices is well placed. That is why I think we have picked up this issue for discussion.
Okay.
So this is what it is. So in 2040, when oil is going to be as important, maintaining the same share of 22% as we are talking about it today.
So you need a kind of a planning. When you talk 2040, your oil consumption is likely to remain constant in the energy basket pie with the hydrocarbons yet having a 40% reserve.
Yes. No, but this is only a part story.
Okay.
You are talking about a country which barely produces 20% of its crude oil requirement, which is import dependent to such a heavy extent of 80%. So, it's not only the oil having almost one fourth, and then oil and gas put together share of roughly close to 40% by 2040. It is the fact that you are not producing even 20% of the crude oil that is required, and thereby you are import dependent. And that is where the shoe pinches.
Yes.
That if the per barrel crude oil price goes up, then straight away it
hits your price.
So it shoots up your import bill. And then it has a cascading effect, because once your import bill shoots up, your current account deficit, which is for this year, April to December, it is estimated to be around 1.9% of the GDP, will go up, skyrocketing.
It will skyrocket.
Which we are talking about, that will keep the fiscal deficit, will keep the current account deficit within control. It goes haywire.
It goes haywire, very true.
So that is where, the concern about the oil prices should matter even for a common man.
Even for a common man.
It touches every aspect of economy. अगर आप देखें तो 80% आपका जो ऑयल बिल है
जी,
वो इट इज इम्पोर्ट बिल.
यस.
जब आपके वहाँ 80% अगर आप इम्पोर्ट से चलाते हैं, तो दो बातें हमारे लिए मैटर करती है. वन इज dollar versus rupee parity, where also we are doing badly. And then the oil prices, which is Brent crude, going to $80 yesterday.
Yes.
It should be a great matter of concern, because rupee on one hand is becoming weaker.
It's declining.
It is declining. Another
oil prices are going up. It's a matter of worry and concern, definitely.
So it's a matter of great concern.
Yes. Having said this, Dr. Vyas, you've given a primer. You also talked about how does India stand in terms of the demand supply chain, if you see? Because you said 20% of the crude requirement is matched domestically.
Yes.
80% still you have to import.
Right.
So if you talk of this demand supply pie,
yes,
with 86% of the oil gas reserves mainly lying in the three regions of the world,
yes,
that is the former Soviet Union, the Middle East, and US. What is the basket when you talk of 80% of imports basically in terms of demand supply?
I will take you back to the oil shock.
Okay.
And the kind of markets that they were at that time.
Okay.
The oil shock 73 and 84, the markets were unregulated. You used to talk about Rotterdam prices of oil.
Yes.
And you could take the oil tanker to Rotterdam and have the auction.
Yes.
So they were, unregulated kind of a market till 1971. This, in a meanwhile, in 1973-84, first and second oil shocks. This has become far more now structured and regulated. The commodity and deregulated market, which it was, it is now a cartel.
Okay.
40% of it comes from OPEC countries. Russia is one of the
major suppliers.
So the Russians also have thrown their lot with the OPEC countries.
True.
And in a manner, they are regulating the supply to the world.
True.
So once you are throttling the supply to the world, fortunately between the oil shock and today, United States found the shale oil.
Shale oil.
And they have 80% of the world's shale oil reserves. So today, United States is not only in a position to fend for themselves, but they have started even exporting a little bit of it. Not much. There also, the days would come when US also will not be able to do much in terms of exports as far as world market is concerned. Now,
yeah, but fracking, I think, has its own repercussions in terms of environmentalists.
No, whatever it is. Apart from that, when it is a question of coming of survival, all these issues and these developed countries conveniently leave behind. So US have become self-sufficient by cracking the oil only.
Okay.
So that is one area. The Europe, in a way, partly depends on this, partly on the
OPEC and non-OPEC supplies.
Non-OPEC supplies and Brent.
Brent.
So they have, the Europe depends on
Iranian oil.
Yeah, about 700,000 means 7 lakh barrels a day. That is what their draw from Iranian source.
Okay.
And then the rest from non-OPEC countries. So Europe is not as much in a problem as we should be because we are import dependent. India and China put together consume 17% of the crude. So China is the largest importer of oil.
China is the largest importer of oil.
And quite a bulk of it also they buy from Iran. Here is a very interesting
That is the reason I said the India basket of demand supply. And I mean, you come to the China thing and the blinkers are up,
before I come to that, there is for US there is MTI index.
Okay.
For Europe, there is Brent. Rest of the countries, Asian countries, the market is unregulated and they sell it at a premium, what is called
Asia premium.
Yes. And this Asia premium is according to me, some kind of a arm twisting on the Asian countries who do not have their own supply.
The Japanese cocktail crude mixing and the Asia premium. But this is interesting, Dr. Vyas. 86% of the oil reserves worldwide are supplied to one of the largest consuming geography in the world. And there also it's sold at premium.
Yes.
I mean, as a customer, they are not in a position to negotiate, or they are not in a position to, arm twist the prices.
There are historic reasons.
Okay.
That now the discussions are on.
Okay.
China, India, and the other countries on the bloc, they are discussing that they will, like Europe, like US, like the Russian bloc, there will be one bloc which will be negotiating their oil prices. Now, if that happens, two things will happen. One is this Asia premium should disappear.
I mean, that would be
it should disappear, and then you should be able to bargain better price from the OPEC and non-OPEC sources. So put together, I think it should make about $10 per barrel difference easily. And that's not small.
That's not small. I mean, when you have the forecast of $100 to touch by December, the total COS said recently, which was reported in media.
Yes.
So in that scenario, $5 to $10 discounted oil would be a kind of a relief.
It's not going to come by December.
It's not going to come by December.
It's a long process going to be. First, that bloc has to be formed. Then India, China, and Japan and the Asian countries put themselves together and then come to a common conclusion. Have a bloc which will be purchasing the crude as a bloc. Then it is going to take time. So
it's not an instant overnight process. It's an overtime process, you can call it.
It has no rocket science solution.
Okay, so India's 20% crude oil demand met domestically.
Yes.
40% coming from the OPEC countries. I mean, the OPEC consortium.
It's not true. See, out of the total supply, 40% is accounted for by OPEC.
Okay.
Rest by non-OPEC countries. And there are several non-OPEC countries, including Russia, which is a major I mean,
the decision maker, you can call it, as far as the oil prices and the supplies go.
Yes.
You have given rightly that what sort of impact it would put on the forex reserves and the impact on the current account deficit.
Yes. No, let's not go to that. You were asking about the sources.
Yes.
And what kind of impact it would make
Yes.
to our oil procurement.
Yes.
That should be interesting to study.
Yes.
Where do we
I
get?
mean, my follow-up question was definitely that with the supply basket.
Yes.
What will be, come November 4, you have
Yes.
the Iranian oil embargo. Venezuelan supplies are down. Your Nigeria is down.
Venezuela is going through. See, it is surprising how a mismanagement can destroy a country. They went on exploring the oil. This is where these politicians, they treat the state resources as their father's property and go on dolling them. So they went on making everything on the state account and going for all kind of so-called benevolent schemes. As a result, things went on, became so costly that their oil production has now suffered. And then they are going to have elections.
There is an impact on their life.
So this is where, when you have reckless subsidizing the life of the people in the name of the state's benevolency, I think Venezuela is an ideal example what you can do it. Now, coming to the sources of supply, as I told, 17% of the world's consumption in 2000 was accounted by India and China.
Yeah.
Now, Iraq, out of our import of about 39.7 million tons, which was till the data available to me, 2018-19, last quarter.
Okay.
39.76 million tons. Iraq was the first, 12 million tons.
That was the number one.
Then Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Then Iran. Then UAE, Nigeria, and Venezuela.
So these are the sources for the Indian oil imports, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Crude imports.
Crude imports. So the major chunk came from Iran.
I am trying to tell you that Iran is very important because it was third largest source as far as India's crude oil supply was concerned. Now, it is not going to be available from 4th November 2018 when the embargo becomes effective. We presume that it will not be available. Now, if India diplomatically works it out with the United States and the sanctions one way or the other are released, or United States becomes lenient not to press them for India, then it's a different matter. But if that happens to be the case, then you are going to have a problem because third largest source from where you are getting the oil supplies, crude supplies, is going to dry off.
It's going to dry
all
off.
of a sudden.
Yes.
And there again, part payment is in rupees, so that again
that will affect you buy dollars to pay.
Matters.
Yes.
Now, what would happen? That you will have to buy from others. So obviously, there are three factors which will push up the prices. The first is OPEC countries, which are just spinning down their supplies to a predetermined level, that thus and no far. Then Venezuela going out of the game. Then sanctions on Iran. And what happens because of that is that Europe is also getting 7 lakh barrels per day from Iran.
From Iran.
So, Europe's source from Iran will dry off.
Okay.
So, Europe will be one more buyer from OPEC and non-OPEC sources.
Countries.
So, that is again adds to the competition. And then China. But China, let me tell you, China is buying about 7 lakh barrels from
already
per day from Iran.
Already.
Now, China is not going to abide by the sanctions which the United States are placing.
Okay.
It's not going to matter for them.
Okay.
So China will have a
advantage.
It might have a windfall gain. They will not only continue to get Iran's supply, but they will also take more, and they will be able to kind of bargain better prices. So we might face a situation where our oil prices, crude oil prices will go up. China has an opportunity in this embargo that they can negotiate better prices, buy more crude, which will become available because Iran will not be able to supply to other countries, and thereby get benefited because of this embargo. So it's somebody's poison, it's somebody's life.
It's somebody's life.
Yes.
But a cheaper oil for China. What is the worry point for India?
No, Chinese economy is growing. Again, it has started picking up.
Okay.
So, whether China gets their energy at a particular cost it might not be directly a problem for you. Your problem is
No,
you are
but
not getting your energy.
CPEC corridor, with the way the things are happening in Northeast, a cheap energy for China and a costly energy for India. I mean, do you see some
No,
imbalance really,
I would
or you
not.
would still remain positive?
No, I would not hazard that guess. I would still believe that it may not matter as much. As much it matters to India.
Okay.
We should be concerned about the oil prices, crude oil prices going to $100 a barrel, and then the current account deficit pushing up very high. You might have some sanctions on the imports. You might have strict restrictions on importing of the crude. You might have even strict restrictions on importing other things. Your economy, fiscal deficit, as well as the current account deficit, both will become almost impossible to manage. And
My point is that financially you'll be weak.
Still, let me, the fourth factor is then you are approaching the elections, so no radical
2019.
no radical decisions. No, I don't get excited by 2019.
No, but 2019 you have 3 states election also, sir.
No, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Your repercussions are not as one feels excited with the elections.
Okay.
The repercussions are that once the elections are announced, model code of conduct will be operative, and the government at the center will become a caretaker government which cannot take major policy decision. That is the issue. On other side, you will be facing a crisis, and particularly at that time, your policy making machine will be paralyzed.
It will not be in a position to take a decision.
It will not be able to.
And that would be a kind of a real crisis situation. That's what I
think. But before that, the government must be seized of this issue. The very fact that they have now started tinkering with the excise and giving some reliefs, though how far they will last with the increasing oil prices is anybody's guess. But still, they are seized of the issue, and I'm sure once the government is seized of the issue and they have started indicating that they are taking it seriously, I'm sure they must be having something up the sleeve.
But some figures, basically, when you talk of the current account deficit and the fiscal scenario, when you talk of high priced oil and a triggering dollar, Iranian supplies drying up, oil embargo, you do again buy dollars to purchase the oil.
See, this has a potential to shoot up your import bill anything between 25 billion to 50 billion, depending upon
25 billion rupees dollars to 50 billion dollars.
Yes, it can shoot up your import.
5,000 crore dollar. 50 billion.
Yes, but that is on the outer side. We stay put at least 25 billion dollars. 30, 35 maybe. That is the correct range according to me.
2500 કરોડ ડોલર થી લઈને 5000 કરોડ ડોલર સુધીનું તમારું ઇમ્પોર્ટ બિલ અપ જવાની સંભાવના છે આગામી દિનોમાં.
But that is, we should not get panicky about it. And you have import bill which is already high, and on that the incremental would be a definite burden.
But Dr. Vyas, then are you indicating a high-priced oil with dwindling rupee and spiring oil prices, meaning limited supplies adding fuel to fire, which means high inflation?
It could be high inflation. It may be a high cost, and therefore it could lead to a stagflation, because on one side the industry will find every energy input that you need for industry go up.
Okay.
And once that goes up, once your transport cost goes up, once your in general energy costs which are using for machines and other things go up, ultimately you have in this situation where you do not have that much vibrant market.
Okay.
So in that kind of a situation, this could well prove to be a last straw on the camel's neck. I don't want to be a devil's advocate, but it could mean a very, very serious damage to the economy, and also the other activities which are related with it.
Yeah, but the country is yet not recovered from the demonetization and the GST. If you see otherwise, and a high oil price and the economists worldwide are talking that a high oil price this time does not mean a growth for the world. It's going to have a very, kind of adverse effect. That's what the economists are warning.
I would partly change your statement that GST is being implemented. So where is the question of being recovered from the GST? But
no, but the way every moment the goalpost is changed. The way.
No, let us be frank.
Duties are being.
Let us be fair to the government. This is not a political issue.
Okay.
All state governments are members in the GST Council.
Okay.
And the decisions which are taken with consensus.
But then do you see,
it is a change which is being implemented, and I will go by my basics in management which were taught to me that any change which you make is resisted, and therefore I'm not surprised by some resistance. And second thing, the important you should be keeping in mind is still the petroleum products, which are one of the major tax.
I was going to come with that googly that why are you not taking that into GST?
No, it will not happen. It will not happen so easily because it is not only the center. Center earning the GST out of this, at least excise, 42% gets devolved to the states. So it is states gain is what they get from center plus the VAT that they are putting in.
Okay.
So for the every state, Congress, non-Congress, communist, any state, this is a major source of revenue. The center takes all the blame for it. 42% of the excise straightaway devolves to them, plus whatever VAT they are putting on it is their income.
So Dr. Vyas, you are indicating that the petrol prices are not going to go down.
States are really at a party.
You are indicating that the prices are not going to go down.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Interestingly, I would like to know, or the viewers would like to know. Unfortunately, we have a little bad internet. Somebody has been asking a question, and he has asked that how many percentage of petroleum products India imports and how many petroleum product India produces. I think you have answered 20% of the crude.
20% of crude, and crude is the basic raw material.
Dr. Narendraji Chaudhary, one of the viewers who has been asking this.
20 crude is the basic raw material.
You have answered this. But there is a poor internet condition, and I think that's the reason somewhere people are not able to connect. The viewers would like to know, this is a very interesting thing, that if you see today, when we talk, the petrol prices have almost reached the cusp of 80 plus, a premium petrol price at 100 rupees. 5 rupee cut came yesterday by the government jointly. 100 plus rupee mark of a oil in India, a petrol or a fuel prices, your peak prices in 1998, it was the lowest peak of $17 per barrel.
Yes.
In 2008, your peak was somewhere at 161.28. That was the peak high.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Your USD, your US dollar equivalent was 43 rupees in 1998, and it was almost you can say 51 rupees in 2008.
Yes.
Petrol prices, if you see, was 24 rupees per liter in 1998 and 55 rupees per liter in 2008.
Yes. Yes.
Diesel was priced at 10 rupees per liter in 1998. It was priced at 35 rupees per liter in 2008. I've talked of the bottom peak and I've talked of the top peak. Today, if you see the present day scenario, it's $85 per barrel, oil prices.
Yes.
Your dollar is somewhere playing at a 73.65, 74, we can say. So we roughly take a 73.50 close perspective.
Yes.
What really happened?
No, this is a bad combination. Somebody had a fever and then ultimately is diagnosed pneumonia also. So it is a bad combination. I would only say that this is a very deadly combination.
Okay.
And I think this coming time, as far as the energy costs, especially the crude-based energy costs are concerned, is not going to be easy time. Let's be very clear that you are going to face tough situation.
You're going to face a tough situation. That's what you want to say.
Yes.
So you're warning that inflation may be high.
Well, it's up to you. You either prefer stagflation or inflation, and I would any day prefer inflation.
Okay.
If which is it could be rained, and if it is a temporary phenomenon.
But sir, 2008 June, if I talk, oil prices were $112 per barrel.
Yes.
Then it started tickling down. It went down. It went down.
Yes.
Your dollar was around 60 rupees.
Yes.
Per dollar. Petrol was around 72 rupees per liter. Today, Your oil prices are down. Your dollar appreciation is not to that mark. I mean, if you take 60 today or 74, so maybe a 20% appreciation in dollar prices.
Yes.
Why the petrol prices are so high?
See, again, I'm till what is the reason is not this is extraneous. It is not because of India. It is because of the demand supply situation.
Okay.
When you throttle the demand supply and the demand continues to be rising,
Okay.
this is what is going to be obvious outcome. So they are throttling the demand.
Okay.
And the supply not being there because of the total demand.
Total demand.
You have the economy where you are talking about 7% and 8% GDP growth rate. Obviously, your energy requirements are going to go up. So, on one hand, you are in a scenario which is of a rising energy requirement, and on the other side, you have throttle demand, and worse still, if they come through, 7 lakh barrels you have to forget about, which you are getting from Iran.
Iran.
So it's a worse scenario, I'm telling you.
Okay, but in that situation and that scenario, I mean, to talk of this,
Yes.
I mean, how do you see, with 80, I mean, as we discussed, the kind of, since 2014, the production has not taken place as per the OPEC data.
Yes.
They've cut the production actually, and they're talking of adding, let's say, 1 million barrels per day with the Iranian embargo, whatever it is happening.
Well,
how do you see this really putting some kind of an arm length, I mean?
see, as and when it happens.
Okay.
Because you are cutting, the supply which is coming from Iran is much more than that.
Okay.
And then 1/3 of that you are talking about adding to it. It's not going to work. It will continue to have the demand which is far more in excess of the supply.
Okay.
So I think that the remedy that we are pinning our hopes on is not going to work.
It's not going to work.
No,
so you mean to say there is a cut supply and there is going to be other areas of serious concern?
No, concern areas where you if you were to plan, you very rightly said that you have the issues like some kind of a buffer that you could have created.
Okay.
Now that buffer, you talked about creating it, and you wanted to have buffer stock and storage facility. You talked about it long back. You said that there will be 2 storage terminals, one at Vizag and other at Kochi.
Yes.
Now imagine when the difference that the oil prices were and they are today is almost 100 billion US dollars. Now, if you would have been able to invest even $50 billion building up the buffer stock, you could have got today 8 to 10 months buffer stock at Kochi or Vizag lying for you. Instead, our OMCs have hardly 1 or 2 months working inventory, which is required for running the refineries.
Yeah.
So you don't have you're not, whoever are the planners have not worried about forcing this situation, anticipating this situation, and creating a buffer stock. If you would have that buffer stock and you said, all right, in this rising prices regime, we want to defer our purchases from OPEC or non-OPEC countries. For 7-8 months, we will not be the buyer, we will use our
stored oil.
Your rupee would have strengthened at least by 5 to 7 in parity with the dollars.
So, I understand your point very rightly that the inventories were not in order. Probably or the planning for the inventories was not done in order.
You are talking about Kochi and Vizag far too long. That there will be storage terminals. You will store your crude, buy when the times are good, and then use it when nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Look at how Europe and US has taken lessons from first and second oil shock.
Yeah.
And how they have armed themselves with. So
to brace themselves, make themselves energy secure.
I think we are a poor learner. I would say that we have not learned anything out of it.
So we don't walk the talk actually as a nation with that policy to make the nation energy secure.
Yeah, we only would say this is not in our control. These are all because of external factors. So what the external factors are?
Every finance minister says this.
In a long-term situation, you ought to control external factors. These external factors have harassed the UPA government. You know the external factors were bothering, they are still bothering you. When are you going to take the control of these external factors? When are you going to invest substantial chunk of money to create world-class storage facilities as Kochi or Vizag? It's time. I mean, you have missed the train.
There are two questions which are similar in nature. One from Dr. Narendra Chaudhary, another from Rajendra Bahulkar, and they are asking for the alternative fuel options, mainly, electrical or nuclear. So, some light on that. Basically, if the oil price, I mean, the oil quantum remains constant. That is the worry. That's what I understand.
No, I don't think it is going to be so easy, because nuclear power requires at least 8 to 9 years lead period on the ground. It is being resisted because of the possible dangers of a Holocaust, and the NGOs are quite active against it. So it's not going to be that easy to have a nuclear power.
Okay.
And therefore, as I talk to you, till 2040, your basket is going to be determined and dictated by fossil fuels, namely coal, oil, and gas.
Okay.
Alternative energy will develop eventually.
So again, it's the same thing. It's not an overnight process. It will be an overtime process. But till that overtime process, your oil basket remains constant. Your hydrocarbon basket remains almost in tune of what
your energy basket will be dictated by the fossil fuels. Anyway, you will have coal, you will have oil, you will have gas. These are almost going to be more than 70% of the components of your energy basket. So more than 75%, I would say.
I remember when you say this is going to be dictated, there was a fantastic documentary done in 4 series part by Al Jazeera, The Secret of the Six Sisters. I mean, they talked about the 6 oil corporation giants worldwide and how they've been, exploring the resources to their benefit. This brings me to a very interesting question. Then where are the Chidit? How do you see government really, doing a balancing act from here? $85 per barrel oil,
let's not
74 rupees dollar. How do you see the change now from here?
Let's discuss.
With 2019 on the verge.
Let's discuss 2019 as a professional is not something that concerns me, except that its impact on the crude prices. I for one will not look at 2019 as something. Political events, geopolitical events do affect the what is happening to Venezuela. Tomorrow they have an election. What was happening to Iraq?
Sure.
What happened? These geopolitical decisions, they are basically responsible for totally changing your availability scenario.
Yes.
So Iran is an example. Iraq was an example. Venezuela, where they are going to have elections, what will happen after that is a great uncertainty. Very, very pity for a nation which has the highest kind of an oil reserves available in the world. The management not being there, the politicians being darts and stupid idiots who sort of went on doling out money. Now even you will be surprised to know, already Saudi Arabia has started talking about taxing their people.
Not only that, they are selling, they're bringing the IPO to even disinvest their one of the largest assets, Saudi Aramco, which never happened. That was a jewel of Saudi Arabia.
So this is where the Venezuela has gone wrong.
Exactly.
Doling out money is a very cheap and very short-sighted policy for any government.
Any government.
It doesn't, any resource that goes into and that doesn't result into creation of wealth or alleviating the poverty, creating the assets. These are the 3 possible best uses of the funds. That is a resource wasted. If you do something, make payments, make doles, which doesn't result into creation of assets. We do not result into lifting the below poverty line people into above poverty line or poverty alleviation, and the resources which do not result into creating lasting assets. They are resources wasted, which is what precisely Venezuela did. And I think India better takes a lesson out of it.
A lesson out of these economies, basically, and the kind of geopolitical issues.
We unfortunately, we are a nation which I have been sometimes very in a lighter way saying that any political party, they have taught the people that everything will be done by the government.
Always
government will do it free of cost. and your bloody job is to increase the population of this country. No country
You've
can
always
run
been
alone.
saying this.
You can't run the country like this.
I understand. So, I mean, Dr. Vyas, 2019 elections, definitely, as you say, does not concern to that extent.
No, it concerns to me. It concerns to me because there will be a policy paralysis at a very critical time.
But in that scenario, do you see, I mean, you have any option to reduce the taxes on the oil or bring the oil under GST regime to make taxation uniform on essential commodity?
It will not come under GST regime as per whatever little understanding of politicians I have.
Okay.
Because as I told you, that it is a misconception that 42% the excise gets devolved to the states. It is a misconception that all this money goes to the center.
Yes.
And it is also a misconception that the VAT is to be reduced by the center. You know, the basic price, if you were not to load it by any taxes, it is not more than 20 rupees a litre.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yes. Then
your refining margins are under 10 rupees. You make it 30 rupees and your taxation is another 42 rupees.
Yes. So that is where, but nobody is going to buy that argument, much less the states. And unless the states agree, nothing is going to go move in the GST Council. So let's not talk about some rosy ideas which are not implementable.
No, but how do you see government tackling inflation, sir? Because I mean, as you said rightly, this will hit economy in a very bad manner.
This is bound to hit economy in a bad manner. Government will have to do something, but more so, we also will have to understand to use energy prudently. Unfortunate part of it is we are one of the most inefficient energy users in the world. Our energy efficiency is almost 3 times lower than that of Japan.
True.
So if you were to reach the Japan's level with the same energy cost, you can triple your GDP and you can become number one economy of the world without adding a penny to your energy costs.
Rationalized use of the resources. You have always been talking, even in the food security debate, in the rural economy debate, in the last one on the land fragmentation. So again, you come on the energy thing, rationalization, the use of rationalizing.
The acceptance is this is a scarce resource. Your country doesn't, 80% of it comes imported. You know, you can't go on spending it recklessly as if it is nobody's business.
True.
And then going on shouting about the rising petrol prices and diesel prices. They are bound to be.
They are bound to be. Let me remind you, viewers, you're talking to Dr. NARAYAN VYAS, why the conclusive remark, and the debate is on the energy prices, the prices of the petrol and diesel and why they are high. Has been till now talking about the statistics, the per capita consumption, and rightly he says that high fuel prices are going to be a disaster if not controlled in a right manner, in a right way. Dr. Vyas, this brings me to a very pertinent question. You know, I mean, when you say that government is not in a position to bring it under GST regime, the taxes would remain the way they are. The only factor which is seen is that these Asian countries would come together and they would try to negotiate the oil prices, which again you see will not happen over time.
It won't happen. Over time. That Asian premium will not go.
Will not happen. That's what I understand. No Supplies are going to go down.
India and China sitting together is like making a fierce Labrador or some other hunting dog and a cat drinking the milk together.
Okay.
India and China sitting together and then talking about this and evolving something. It will be wonderful if they can do it.
If they can do it, yeah. But in that scenario, I mean, how do you see several media reports have indicated that interestingly, oil refiners in India are sitting on a low-priced crude inventory.
See, what is their
They're presently selling it.
What is their inventory?
At a, I mean,
and what business you have got to subjectively comment on that? When they have an inventory where the prices fall and they have high see how the oil marketing companies made huge losses because they bought the oil at $140 a barrel, processed it, and then it was highly
subsidized oil.
So at that time where were you gone? And what kind of cheap inventory they are sitting on? They have hardly month and a half or 2 months inventory.
That's inventory.
Which is required. You have, and unfortunately, India has not added much to their refining capacity in last 10 years.
In last 10 years, yes. That's a fact.
So what are we talking about? Why we want to see, we immediately pick up something to pinch the hole in a balloon in a very isolated and subjective manner, that they are sitting on cheap inventory. What do you mean by cheap inventory?
No, but why the reports are because the oil prices have gone down since 2014. Now is the time when the oil prices are going up.
These reporters are not telling you that 1.3 lakh crores.
I was coming to that point.
They still remain to be paid.
1.3 trillion rupee oil bond debts are yet to be paid.
That apart, this deficit that is being borne by the OMCs, still remains to be paid. So I think, put together, democracy in India means soft paddling the issues, taking decisions which are populistic decisions, not worrying about tomorrow, worrying about only your term in the office. This is what we have come to learn about the democratic process in India. And then you have coalition. So you cannot displease one of your coalition partners, otherwise your government falls.
No, but here you have a majority government. You don't have a coalition.
I am not talking about this government alone. You know, the governments in office, wherever they were. And whether this party or that party, I am not here holding brief for any party. All parties are equal when it comes to talking about populistic measures. They do not want to do anything that displeases their voter. They do not want to do anything which are hard measures. You know, when the first oil shock, the British people, they went to the government and asked them, tell us what we can do to help you fighting this oil shock. Are we willing to do that?
I understand. I mean, Churchill probably was.
Are we willing to say that I have 4 cars, I will only use one, we will pool our family requirements together, and 3 cars will not consume fuel.
Rationalizing the usage of fuel.
We don't want to do anything. We do not want to have any personal inconvenience. And on the contrary, better place a person it is, better influence a person it is, more VIP a person it is. He is the most reckless user of the resources that is available to him.
So the sports utility vehicles are actually the socially useless vehicles.
We don't talk about that. These examples, but this is a fact.
This is a fact. Dr. Vyas, the Union Budget of India in 2018, which was presented in February by the
$65.
I mean, it was budgeted at $65 USD. Today it's 85.
Yes.
Severe climate warnings. Winter is going to be one of the major things. The floods in US have cut your exploration cycle.
No,
I mean, how do you see this?
US should not worry you because you are not dependent upon US crude. Of course, US feeding to the market may ease the situation to some extent.
Yes.
But it is not that substantial. Unless there is something which happens with the OPEC and non-OPEC, especially Russia. They are together. They are a cartel. So I don't think that any major changes.
But what does this really mean, for the present day government?
It will be a challenge. It is a challenge. It is a challenge which they have kept on facing and deferring for far too long.
We have just last 3 questions, but again I come to the 2019 because there are 3 state elections: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh.
Elections are never fought on realistic issues.
Okay.
Elections are always fought on. You look at the populist election slogans. Indira Gandhi aayi hai, nayi roshni layi hai. Garibi hatao, Mr. Clean, Ram Mandir, all kind of emotive issues on which the elections are fought in this country. Who is bloody concerned about real politics or economics?
Okay.
Every political party specializes in selling the Mungeri Lal ke Hasin Sapne, and people buy it. Gladly they buy it.
Yes.
The possible impact to the Indian economy would be the crude oil prices may further rise, moving towards $100 per barrel. The rupee might weaken, crossing rupees 80 plus per US dollar. For every US dollar 10 per barrel increase of oil price result in additional import bill of US dollars 8 billion. This is in turn with decreased GDP by 16 BPS, CAS by 27 BPS, and inflation by 30 BPS as per the SBI EcoWAP survey. The budget assumes the oil price at $65 per barrel when it was announced. With oil price increased by 20 US dollar per barrel on $65, then the GDP should decrease by 32 BPS, fiscal deficit should increase by 16 BPS, CAD by 54 BPS, and inflation by 60 BPS. With the increased oil prices, the current account deficit for 2018-19 could be around 2.5% of GDP and not less than 2% as it was announced at the time of the budget. The worsening trade deficit can impact the rupee further. Between April-May 2018, outflows to the tune of $5 billion have happened. The twin impact of FII outflows and worsening trade balance can hit rupee further. India's crude import bill may rise 20% in financial year 2018-19. This may push up the import bill from $88 billion to $105 billion from 2017-18 to 2018-19. High crude oil prices push up rates for petrol and diesel, the mainstay of road transport in the country, induce broader inflation, boost public demand for fuel tax cuts and subsidies, and pose a serious risk to government finances. So this is going to be having a long-term repercussions as far as Indian economy is concerned, and perhaps it has by and large created a situation by which the discipline of current account deficit, the fiscal deficit, and also the trade balance will be thrown to the wind.
Having explained the impact of the high fuel fossil prices, I mean, as you said rightly, that this cartel of fossil fuel marketers would continue.
Why should they not continue? Tell me, are they fools?
What is it?
When they've got the best opportunity to make the kill, why they should not continue?
No, but then what is the immediate way out to brace the impact?
See, the immediate way out, there is nothing like any rocket science solution.
Okay.
You will have to take the brunt of the shock that is coming, that has come.
Okay.
And eventually, you will have to learn to have some restrictive measures which cuts down the energy consumption considerably. When we talk about energy efficiency, so far in this country, in the name of energy efficiency, we talk only about electricity.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we talk the last mile connectivity in terms of the electricity which has reached the
that is our definition of energy efficiency. We have never worried about boilers which are running inefficiently.
True.
Some of the boilers which are running at 30% efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, in Ahmedabad, if you go, there are boilers which are primitive, those Babcock, Wilcox kind of boilers.
True.
Which are running at 20% efficiency.
Okay.
Now, as a country which is short of energy, how can you afford to do this?
Very true.
You must put the people behind bars if they are inefficient users of the energy.
So what is the conclusive remark, Dr. Vyas, to trigger the next topic of discussion now from here on the energy security?
Conclusive remark is, summing up, one can say that present day world is so much dependent on oil that every year its demand increases at the rate of 1.5%. There is no consensus regarding when the demand for the oil will peak. There are different opinions and each one have their own predictions. However, soon the world will be consuming 100 million barrels per day. The OPEC General Secretary, Mohammed Barkindo, says that oil has become a major source of energy. Out of 100 million barrels per day, 60%, as high as 60%, is used for transportation, where there is no viable alternative in the near future. Petrochemical industries also is a major consumer, where there is very little alternative of oil as a raw material for plastics. Some experts believe that with the pressure building up on the use of oil, gas and coal from environmental lobby, the next decade may see the decline in oil demand. This appears to be too much optimistic conclusion, but one possibility, as they predict, that once there is a more pressure from the environmental lobby, the possibilities are that the oil consumption of the world might decrease. I personally do not agree with that. However, the International Energy Agency says that if the present policies continue, then at least up to next 20 years, the demand for oil may hover around 125 million barrels per day. So almost 25% increase in the present demand projections. The investment banker Goldman Sachs believes that the oil demand will peak around 2025. However, the consultancy firm McKinsey hopes that use by transport sector will peak by 2030, whatever the oil demand would be maximum in 2036. So I think the oil still is going to be increasingly in demand. We are going to be dependent, especially the transport sector, especially the energy sector, which is deriving energy from the crude. These two sectors will consume increasingly oil or the oil derivatives for manufacturing of items like plastics. So oil demand, it is said, as the consultancy firm says, McKinsey, will peak by 2036. So there is no chance of oil demand slowing down and then starting to decline. I think we are in for a time, for a reasonable long period of at least 2 decades, where oil demand will increase, the supply will be throttled, and with that perhaps we will have to get used to the prices of the oil, which will hover around $100 per barrel plus. So these are the news. The Indian economy, which is dependent to the tune of 80% on import as far as the crude oil requirement is concerned, will have its own shocks and issues which create problems for the economy and the growth of GDP in this country. Let's see how it works out. But the oil prices, weakening rupee as of now, is really going to be a major headache for the government of the day, and that is not going to die away in a shorter time. So governments of the day, because 2019 is the election year, the present government at the center is now going closer to the period where they will be handing over the baton to the next government. And even then, the issue regarding oil price, increased cost of energy, weakening rupee, inflation and controlling the current account deficit will continue to haunt the governments of the day. That appears to be the scenario. That this is a phenomena which is developing.
Okay.
You know, you have now just got the first tap of the storm.
Okay.
The storm is brewing. The eye of the storm is yet approaching you.
Okay.
So you be prepared for it. There are no easy solutions.
Okay.
And elections or no elections, the country has to survive. The economy has to survive. And if the economy doesn't survive, the obvious outcome is unemployment, stagflation, and all kind of problems which can create, as it is today. If you see last 4 days, how many points the stock market has fallen?
It is one of the best indicators. I mean, the way rupee has been
the stock market is the barometer. It is the barometer of the economy. The way there is a steep fall in the stock market, almost 3,000 points plus.
Yes.
The index has lost.
I have lost 30% of my portfolio.
No, you will make
on a lighter note.
I am sure. So
yeah, so I mean the days are not good. It's not achedin anymore. I mean, to that extent.
You started having some sneezing. You ignored it. A chota sa cold hai, khatam ho jayega. Then you had a sore throat. You said, "Theek hai." let us
I'll handle it with the hot water or something.
Yes, let us handle it.
True.
Then you started getting fever. You said, "Arey metacin le lete hain, chal jayega."
True.
And then on one day you found that you had a pneumonia, and the patch has migrated to the lung.
To the lung level, yeah.
Now this is what is happening with this.
It has migrated to the lung level, you mean to say?
It is almost.
It has migrated to the lung level.
It is almost.
So Dr. Vyas rightly says that the patch has migrated to the lung level. And what would be the next discussion we would take next week on this conclusive remark?
By that time, some new issues will be thrown.
Okay, we'll be talking something on the current economy issues.
We stand committed, and if we don't have any other issues, we will work out something which is relating to the current economy.
So can we take something on a current fiscal deficit in that area probably?
We can take the foreign trade, current account deficit, and the issues related with that.
So let's talk on that.
So we can talk about FRBM and what will happen to FRBM.
Very true.
There are some bold assumptions made in the budget which was presented, and I have good fortune of analyzing the current the finance minister's budget myself, Dr. Bakul Dalacha.
I'm planning this time to do with all three of you.
So 38 years consecutively, we are fortunate through God's grace. We are looking at the central budget. So
that would be great.
I think when this budget was presented, if you look at my remarks, I had said the finance minister has made difficult promises, and I only hope and pray that he is able to keep it.
Yeah. Even I think the corporate insolvency resolution process is something we need to really talk in coming days.
One of the worst fears that I had about the current account deficit are coming true.
You had already forecast this in your budget speech.
I distinctly remember having commented on that.
Yeah. So Dr. Vyas, thanks a lot for speaking to Dateline Gujarat, JNP Live, and this was a brilliant discussion we took ahead.
Thank you.
And we look forward for taking such discussions ahead in coming days.
Thank you so much.